Okay, insight 41. In our daily lives, we are very busy performing many tasks. While performing these tasks, we often forget certain comforting truths. We are caught off guard and allow falsehoods to creep in unchecked. There are many forms of input which might go unchecked. Inputs from outside and from inside could be direct as well as indirect, meaning suggestive, or a combination of both. Okay, so in modern life, people are often busy with all sorts of tasks and engaging in all these activities. The mind adjusts to think of how to deal with the various outside phenomenons. In addition, the individual often tends to do the errands in a hurry. This busy and hurried state is most disadvantageous because it is the antithesis, it is the opposite. It is the opposite of silence and slowness, which is needed for reflection, for self-reflection, for self-analysis, and self-monitoring. One who is captured in such an unaware state, I would say one whose mind is captured in such an unaware state, has put aside his massive knowledge he has accumulated since birth and uses only those limited abilities that help him in his presently engaged task. So people are, as you know, very busy in modern society. And so they're involved in many tasks: washing the clothes, cooking, buying your lunch, doing your job, different sections of your job, rushing from this transportation to that transportation, checking your time, trying to put things in order, so many things, getting and receiving phone calls, so many things. And so because you're engaged in all these activities, and each of the activities are require, because they're done in a hurry, it keeps your mind busy, and each of the activities require a limited amount of knowledge required for the task. So, for example, you're typing, and so the knowledge for typing comes into your mind, and you use that. You're not thinking of lunch when you're typing. It doesn't help you in your typing. You need to be focused on the task to get this done, and so your mind is focused on the typing method, and you go into that. You're washing your clothes, you have to make sure you separate black and white as whatever else you're doing, or cooking, especially cooking, you have to be very careful. And so all these tasks that you're getting into requires a certain amount of knowledge required to do the tasks. And so your mind at that moment will be filled with the limited perspective of doing that task alone. Generally speaking, this is what happens. Now, you may dart from one task to another, but even that, it's like a one-on-one situation. Here, task, this requires to be done. I have that task as well. Okay, let me go focus on that. This is, like, as they say, multitasking. And by the way, I don't believe that women can do multitasking better than men. I don't think that's the case at all. And you'll understand why exactly as well. If that were true, then many women would have no problem driving a stick shift car, but because it requires multitasking, pressing the clutch, shifting the gear, pressing the gas, it's a multitasking situation. It's simply a matter of many women do not grow up playing with little cars, parking them, in their little game thing, and they don't get to understand what is required learning about the car's distance between yourself and the next car, and so many things. They're just not involved in cars. Many women are not. Some are, some aren't. And same with men. Many men are just not involved in the kitchen area. And so it's simply a lack of familiarity. And that is what is happening with the inability of some men in the kitchen and the inability of some women in the car or other uh, handyman jobs, they call them, you know. So it's not about multitasking, it's about what jobs are you familiar with. So, right, so the mind is captured by these, the mind is using a limited amount of knowledge doing this particular task. At that moment, because he's focused on this task and his mind is focused on that amount of knowledge, he's not aware of all the knowledge that he has learned from childhood up until now about all sorts of things in life. Because he can't be focused on that stuff while he's doing this. So therefore, that's a good thing. However, because the individual, it's a good thing, by the way, it's a good thing because otherwise he will not be able to do his task. He'll be focused on this and that and that and that, and he just, can't do his task. But the problem is that because the person is so busy during the whole day and almost the night too, what happens is that he just goes from one job to the next, to the next, to the next, from one limited perspective, one limited job, one limited perspective to do that job, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, until the day is over almost, So he doesn't have any chance to look at life as a whole and become aware of his past experiences, of self-reflection of what is life really about, what am I about, what do I like to do. None of this comes up because he's so busy and engaged in all these various tasks that uses only a limited perspective of his brain. So what happens is the person becomes a robot. He becomes robotic. And he knows it too. He goes, but he just can't get out of it because there's so many tasks to do. That's why a lot of people, when they go home, they want to do what they want to do, watch television or get any activity that they want to do. Why? Because for such a long time, they've been taken out of. They've been disallowed to do and be who they are, do what they like to do and be who they are. They're focused on all these other tasks, and so the activities when they get home that they want to do is a means to get back to themselves, just to feel who they are. Now consider this person, man or woman, being on the job 8 hours, right? 8 hours. And it took probably 2 hours to get ready and get there and get back. So that's 10 hours, right? And then you have a lunch, that's 11 hours, right? 11 hours, that's a lot of hours. And then for this person to get home 1 or 2 hours to try to reconnect with who they are and what they're like, you cannot compare 2 hours to 11 hours. I mean, when the person, you have to understand, it's not even 2 hours versus 11 hours. When the person gets home, his consciousness is all messed up. He doesn't feel like himself. So when he's watching television and doing activities that he's doing, he's not being himself at that moment. He's just trying to get out of the mental state of being robotic. It takes a while for that to happen, for him to get out of that sleep state. He's been like that for 11 hours, in that unconscious state. It takes him for a while to get out of that, to be conscious and aware. So the 2 hours that he spends home, most of it is just trying to get that garbage out of his head, the robotic way of being, to hopefully reach a clear and conscious and aware state. When and if and when the person does get there, which It's rare, really, in that state of mind. From then on, he can improve his getting really connected to his core and improving on that. Okay. So here at 41, inside 41, we're talking about in our daily lives, we are very busy performing many tasks. While performing these tasks, see, I'm going to give you a nice example. Here are people walking in the park and supposedly having a good time, but the two people walking, they're talking to each other about certain things going on. They're still not, the mind is not free. Walking by talking about this particular thing. The mind is not free. It's just crazy. Okay, they can manipulate. Okay, what am I saying? Okay, here, 41, sorry. So, while performing these tasks, the very tasks that they're busy with, we often forget certain comforting truths. By that I mean, so during your lifetime, you may have done some certain studies and learned certain things that are comforting to you, self-assuring. It could be about self-esteem. It could be about life. Little to big things, little, medium to big things, and because these truths are not focused on, we're not aware of them because we're so busy on these tasks. We are caught off guard. Why are we caught off guard? Because we are not being ourselves. We're focused. We are just using a limited amount of thinking and knowledge and way of being to do that particular task. We're not being our whole self. Therefore, we're not being ourselves and allow falsehoods to creep in unchecked. A really good example of that is one time I saw there was a fender bender. The car had backed into another car. So here's a car and another had backed into it, not creating a big damage, just a small thing. It was really nothing much. Anyway, the person in front gets out of the car. It was a lady, and starts screaming at the guy behind him, who got out of the car as well. She was saying, "You did this and da 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 da. Why you look where you're going?" A whole bunch of stuff like that. I don't remember the exact words, but she was, quite upset, very, very, very upset about the guy. And the guy, from the moment that he got out of the car, his position was, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, something to that effect. He admitted his guilt of, bumping into her car, though it wasn't a really big bump, I don't think. Anyway, because I couldn't see any visible bump or damage, or dent or anything. And anyway, so as the lady's continuously blaming this guy, and the guy has already taken fault for it. He's already admitted immediately when he got out of the car, being genuinely forthright. Meaning he was genuinely saying, "Look, it's my fault. Sorry about that." But she was just not letting up. She's continuously shouting at him. He looks at the back of the car and sees a sign of a fish, which suggests that, she's a Christian. The person in front who got bumped was a Christian, and it's a bumper of a fish, a sticker of a fish. And actually, it wasn't a sticker, it was a what do you call it? A metallic fish sign. And so something like that. Anyway, so as she's screaming, he points to the back of the car and says, "Here's what I'm talking about." And he points to the fish. "Here's what I'm talking about," and he points to the fish. Uh, the woman immediately stopped because he now has brought up the situation that you're saying that you're a Christian, you have a bumper sticker saying that you're a Christian. Why why the heck are you shouting at me so much when I've just admitted that I've bumped into you? But why is that you have to constantly belittle me or harass me in such a manner? And he said he called her on her Christianity. He says, why are you, why aren't you following your own thing? All that he said though was that here's what I'm talking about. Your bumper sticker. Here's what I'm talking about. That's all he said. So here, at that moment when she got this bump from the guy, she has forgotten that she's a Christian. She has forgotten that she's a Christian. Now this woman, more than likely it's possible, she's gone to church many times, said Jesus this, Jesus that, and so many things, whatever. Talk to people, try to convert them, try to save them, and so many things. It's possible. Who knows? Anyway, she has this bumper sticker, and at that moment she got bumped. She gets out of the car, she's forgotten that she's a Christian because her focus is on that limited perspective happening right there, which is, I got bumped. He's at fault, and I'm going to blame the heck out of this guy. So, so she's caught off guard. She's not being herself and allowed falsehoods to creep in. Well, she was not behaving Christian-like. She was not behaving godly-like, meaning to belittle the person and totally blame him, continuously harassing him when he's already admitted guilt. So she allowed falsehoods to creep in. Now she may have done this involuntarily. She didn't realize that this bump on her car, just the bumping one car to the other, bothered the heck out of her. She got out, and her perspective was that particular limited perspective right there. And so she lost track of who she was as a Christian woman. Had she focused on, hey, take your time, you got bumped, okay, take your time and think about it, instead of just reacting automatically to the situation, which the situation now rules her. So take your time, think, okay, Bob, was there any damage? Is the guy okay? Is the guy okay? Are you okay? Is the guy okay? This comes from caring and compassion. Okay, good. And what is he doing? He's admitting guilt. Okay, I'm a Christian woman. I could be nice to to this person. And say, it's okay, no problem. Okay, so we're talking about there are many forms of input which might go unchecked, meaning unaware. So falsehood to creep in unchecked. Again, we are caught off guard and allow falsehoods to creep in unchecked. Unchecked means unconscious. We're just unaware. We're just stuck in the situation and we don't know why. We're stuck in it. But why? We know why now, right? Because we're using a limited perspective of our mind for a task. And as we're doing this, we are not aware of the massive knowledge that we have accumulated, including morality and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so therefore, we cannot take advantage of those knowledges which we have learned, the comforting truths. So therefore, we allow falsehoods to creep in, unchecked. So if we're not using the positive, the negative, we can be so easily influenced by it. I mean, imagine a kid who's growing up, who has not learned about morality and the positive and the benefits of being a moral person. So this person can be easily influenced by all sorts of influences, including the negative ones. you know. So if a kid comes and starts pushing him, he may push back, or he may just start crying, ah, you know. Now, if you're a person who's godly or a moral person and you are aware of your self-esteem, somebody pushes you, you're aware of your self-esteem. It doesn't bother you. You're like, oh, okay, this person is pushing me, okay. But it doesn't bother you as far as your self-esteem. You may take action against the guy, or you may try to see how you can educate the person genuinely, you know, by showing a positive response or seeing how is he doing, or maybe some other things happen. Maybe he's joking, you know, who knows. So there's many forms of input which might go unchecked. So these negative influences might come in, and you may act like a little child, because, and so many people do, so many adults act like a little child. And you wonder, how is this possible? Because they're operating from a very limited perspective of that particular situation. And so they're not using the knowledge that they have accumulated. Now, in the section before, in inside number 40, we had talked about, in the explanation part, it's very important in when you learn any kind of information, that is when you focus on the main point of life, or if you learn anything close to it, or any kind of positive thing, you want to not just learn it as far as know it, but you want to establish it in your life, so you live by it, you know. You want to see it you focus on it with such depth that you see it as real, and then you practice applying it into your life, so that is how you operate from that perspective. That goes directly with the insight number 41, because insight 41 is the opposite, saying that you may forget to use your knowledge when you're busy with these limited tasks in life. So when you get into a task, you want to be aware, hey, take some time off from the task, or while you're doing the task, take some time to really reflect about life. You'll enjoy being alive rather than just being robotic doing the task. Okay, good. This is continuation of the explanation of insight number 41. Again, it is in this unaware mental state, it's like an unconscious state, that he is susceptible, meaning he is vulnerable, he is open to outside influences, because his awareness is limited and focused on the outside, meaning on the task. His focus is on the task. Therefore, his reality is based on outside. His reality is based on the task. His reality is based on the limited perspective which he has. The realities of his earlier knowledge or insight into life are not prominent in his mind, because his attention is not on those inner reflections. His attention is not on those matters. It's not on those knowledges. It's not on those subject matters, on those knowledges. His attention is on the outside. Very good.